Ladies and gentlemen, we're live and we're skipping the intro today because we don't have time for that kind of stuff. It's a big day today. We are drafting an FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship team. $6 million in prizes, $1 million to the winner, us, obviously. And I'm bringing in the heavy hitter for it. I'm bringing in my guy, Theo Gremminger from Player Profiler. Last year, we did a weekly one together, $35 buy in, won it, obviously, easily. And the options there are you can get $300 cash or you can get an entry to one of these contests. And we said, obviously, we're going to let it ride. We're going to get right back on that horse and we're going to win the whole dang thing. So, Theo, what's happening, buddy? Are you ready
Yeah,
to roll from
yeah.
the
I
spot?
mean, this is like we're talking the pre-show. I love the five spot. Love the five spot. The five spot is like we
Look
have
at the board up.
access. Yeah, we have access to. So this is pretty easy for me. I think this is Breece Hall right here, Coop.
Done. Done deal. Breece Hall, come on down. This is a full PPR format. Last year, Breece Hall led the league in screen passes, despite coming off a torn ACL. He got 30 screen passes, Theo. That's like
Yeah,
2 free receptions every game. And guess
yeah.
what? The year before last, the guy that got the most screen passes as a running back, well, that was Aaron Jones catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. And the year before that, well, it was Aaron Jones again catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. It's built into the scheme. It's built into what they want to do. Trey Bone.
Yeah, and I think that that's sort of like the devil's advocate to like Breece Hall absolutely going nuclear, having like a David Johnson peak David Johnson type season where he's RB1 overall and kind of laps the field. The argument is we haven't seen a running back go nuclear with the total number of receptions in an Aaron Rodgers offense, but I think this offense is going to look a little different. And I think also just based on the personnel they have in New York, it's sort of hard to get away from using Hall as a receiver out of the backfield. He's just so good on every single touch. And we know that the rushing
Good.
efficiency is going to go up this year. So it's a no-brainer pick. And also, like structurally, when you get Bijan, you get Breece Hall at this range, Coop, it's like it's awesome because we're not going to have to chase running back. We're able to kind of cover up what we need at wide receiver and tight end because wide receiver is going to get steamed by the time we pick next.
Right. And well, the thing is, even when it does get like absolutely cooked, I still like the wide receivers there. Like you couldn't possibly I like about 20 something wide receivers. Yeah, honestly, like 26 if you include like the T. Higginses and the Zay Flowers of the world, even though we wouldn't take them here, it's like my list of wide receivers I like, guys like Chris Godwin. I don't know if any of these guys drafting with us are watching the stream and they were giving away too much info. I know somebody in here named their team the law firm of Coop and Greminger.
I
So
love it.
they know what's going on in here. Our team, of course, is named Redraft in 5. Does Redraft in 5 have any meaning to you, Theo?
Well, it's been sort of an announcement on the Dynasty Trades in Five channel, but Coop and I we're not leaving Player Profiler or Fantasy Alarm by any means. We're doing a big, awesome side project, though. We're going to be doing a podcast every single week on Redraft in Five, which is in association with the Dynasty Trades in Five guys, Clay, Scott Connor, and Shane. Those guys have been just crushing it with Dynasty Trades in Five. And this is something where Coop and I, we podcast together all the time. So we said, why don't we make this a recurring thing? And I think we're going to crush it this year, Coop. I'm really stoked. I talk to you like all the time. I'm like I'm in your text messages like 24/7 these days. So I might as well, we might as well do it live for everybody and hopefully help them win. So we're super stoked about it. If you guys want to support us, give us a follow on the new YouTube channel, Redraft in Five, and look for some social media announcements from the Dynasty Trades in Five guys over the next couple days.
Yeah, the link is in the description there, and we're going to be doing a show that comes out in time for waivers. We're going to hit on everything, but I didn't really have a show where I was able to kind of go through and rehash what I'm doing at tight end, the yin and yang stuff. So that's all going to be part of the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely go get set up with that in the description. YouTube redraft in 5. So it's going to be great, man. Toronto Dave and Herms are excited. Looks like we got Guile picking at 3, and he's hanging out here in the chat. So we might have to use our secret code words
Okay,
here.
so Coop, I put five guys in the queue that are all really really appealing to me. There's a sixth guy that's at sixth in our queue. I just feel a little less excited about this year than I do the other two. Um, Number six is probably a guy that you might like a little bit more than me, but I'll make an argument for number four in the queue. I guess once we get to What'd you say? When is this guy picking? That's in the chat. I don't want to get sniped on this.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, we'll be careful here, but the reality is my rankings are out there.
Yeah.
You can go and get my rankings. That doesn't mean you can beat me in fantasy football.
Yeah,
'Cause
and
draft is only the start of the game, right? It's the real leagues are won on the wire. They're won in trade. I know there's not trades in this, but that's where leagues are won during the season. And again, I don't always draft off my rankings because I'm building a team.
yeah.
Like I'm building in upside, floor, risk, reward, safety, all the things you need to have a enough floor to get you through the early season and enough ceiling to win this championship at the end. So for me, go ahead, pull up my rankings. Hang out in the chat, guy. We love to have you here.
And structure, like you said, I think in FFPC or in some of the FFPC competitors, there's a lot of really good drafters. So structure matters. And the ETN and Henry were not in our queue. Drake London was. Coop, I think this is an absolute no-brainer. Sam LaPorta at the 208 does not happen ever.
Yeah, in this, it's kind of crazy.
In this, it's an insane value. Like we have LaPorta, we have McBride. All the tight ends are falling. You hardly ever see this. I think we take LaPorta. He's been going like 11th, and we get him this late in the second round. This is sort of a dream start. I would bet on Fantasy Mojo there's hardly any Breece Hall, Sam LaPorta. This might be the only one in the whole tournament.
I say it's not even something I normally would do, but I'm down to do it with the value. Let's take the value here. We'll grab LaPorta.
And I think structurally,
I typically would not take a tight end in this spot. I would have taken another player that I'll mention it.
Maybe they'll slide back to us.
We'll see. But I would have taken. There's a ton. That's the thing. I love picking from the front end here because there are so many players, so many great players here available, so many targets. There's wide receivers and running backs here that could be the number one flex player in all of fantasy. And the thing with typical redraft leagues. So for those unaware, at FFPC, it's tight end premium. So it changes the algorithm a bit. But in a typical redraft league, I don't take tight ends here because a tight end has never been the number one flex player in fantasy football. Not Travis Kelce, not Mark Andrews, not Waller Kittle. It's always been a wide receiver or running back, and I always take that upside first. But in FFPC, we have seen seasons where, like Mark Andrews that year, I believe when he had the top 5 all-time season, I believe he was the number one flex player in this format. So it is a different formula.
I will say structurally, though, sometimes with the 20 rounds and the tight end premium, structurally, sometimes if you get that early tight end, you have like less pressure to kind of play catch up with some of those middle of the pack tight ends. So I kind of go both ways on that. But the kind of the argument is we had all those guys with 200 or more PPR points, and in tight end premium, they're even more impactful. It feels like a tight end year. And I know there's a couple guys that are like low end tight end ones right now that you like a lot, and I do as well. But Coop, we might as well talk about it right now in our queue.
Here's the thing. Here's where I'm coming from is that I'm contractually obligated to be super plugged into what's going on with tight ends and find breakout tight ends. So I don't typically draft a tight end early because I'm wasting that ability, right?
Coop, we got to talk turkey here because we're OTC and I have all three. Well, actually, no. Cooper Kupp went for me. Jaylen Waddle is the pick.
It's Waddle for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Waddle's the pick. I actually got him. I'm in another FFPC. I'm in a slow main, and he fell to us at like the end of the third round, which I thought was unbelievable. It's such good value here. I think that this could be a career year for Waddle. The offense is so good in Miami, and he's had 3 straight years with 1,000 yards. We've seen him win different ways. A little bit odd to see Mark Andrews still on the board, though, at this point.
Well, so that's what I'm saying is that would you have rather had Sam LaPorta and Jaylen Waddle? And again, it's kind of splitting hairs. Yeah. Would you rather have had Sam LaPorta and Jaylen Waddle or Chris Olave and Mark Andrews?
I think you can make an argument for both. I do think that Waddle, because of the quality of the offense, that he's going to could be a similar year to Olave, and I don't put it out of the realm of possibilities that he just straight up outscores him. Waddle, we saw 2022, just how effective he was with this offense humming. And I think it's also sort of we don't quite know the level that a Mike McDaniel offense can get to. where we've seen it for 2 years where it's sort of like, hey, this is great, but why can't it be better? They added more running back depth. They added offensive linemen, and they added Jonnu Smith. Plus, Waddle is healthy, where last year he was dealing with injuries to start the season. Tua Tagovailoa is like so skinny you can't even recognize him. So why can't this offense just go nuclear and set the record for points per game this year?
On the flip side, you've got Clint Kubiak bringing that same scheme to the Saints, right? Where they're going to use the fullback now. They went and drafted a left tackle in the first round, and Chris Olave is going to be doing all the cheat motion, and he's going to be running those slants and doing all the things that Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk do, because he's, obviously the number one over there versus the number two. I like both players. Obviously, using the fullback and using, Durham Smythe as a blocking tight end really consolidates those targets among the top dogs. So I love Waddle. It's just in my build, I would have my team right now would be Breece Hall, Chris Olave, and Jaylen. That would be
that would be great. And I'll say like 408 and the fifth round, there'll be a couple of tight ends that are definitely very, very interesting. You do see like once you see the George Kittle go off the board, sometimes there's a gap, and then you get the Njoku, Bowers kind of tier of tight ends. But you got to think like even if Sam LaPorta regresses in scoring 10% this year, he's still such a value in this tight end premium
in this format. Yeah. So this is something I would never do in a 10 to 12 team league. That's just regular scoring. But in tight end premium, you got to consider the possibility that he builds on last year. And now all of a sudden he's not just the tight end one, because his tight end one season last year was good, right? It was a great rookie season, and it was fine. But if you take the last 10 years and sort by, points per game, it was the 29th season. So it's not like it was some world beating season. He didn't have 1,000 yards. He didn't have 900 yards. But so you're taking him there hoping that he builds on that. But in tight end premium, all he has to do is do what he did last year, and now you obviously hit the season he had last year is better than what Waddle did because of the premiums.
Yeah, and I will say that the 120 targets, Coop, like that for me, that's like sort of the elite number that I'm looking at too. Like the touchdowns can change, but when you get 120 targets as a tight end right out the gate, like that's elite, And if that number goes up, like let's say Jameson Williams doesn't take that step forward, and maybe like the Josh Reynolds, some of those Josh Reynolds targets actually just get distributed to LaPorta. There's a lot of like outcomes where LaPorta could do better than he did last year, just in terms of weekly usage. All right, so
or Amon-Ra gets hurt, right? And the one thing I do worry with the Lions before we move on to this next pick is I worry that they might hit that spot that the Peyton Manning Colts hit at one point, and the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes have kind of hit in recent years, which is the quarterback goes crazy. You realize you got something on your hands. You realize you have an incredible offense. So you turn around and you just focus on defense in the run game. And then the team as a whole gets better, right? So like Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes both had seasons with like 50 pass. And we're talking about Colts Peyton Manning with like 50 passing TDs. Then they went 12-4 in both seasons. And then the following year, the defense got better. The run game got better. The teams went 14-2, right? Which Patrick Mahomes, after he threw 50 touchdowns, the team went 14-2. But defense is better. They didn't need to throw as much. I do worry a little bit that the Lions might not need to throw as much. So I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I don't. Again, I am on board with the pick. And now at tight end, we only draft upside if we're going to take a second one. There's no reason to take a boring tight end.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you. And structurally, we can pass on tight end past round 10 even, because we have an anchor tight end build. So we're 4 away. Coop, I have a couple guys in the queue that really stand out for us structurally. Yeah, I saw Dynasty Coach A talking Kincaid LaPorta. Hey, I got plenty of Kincaid bags. I got bags and bags and bags of Kincaid. But LaPorta, again, like LaPorta this late in the draft, we'll check after we make this pick, Coop. But I'm going to go ahead and guess this might be the only Breece Hall, Sam LaPorta team in this entire field.
I don't want to take DJ Moore here.
Okay, so let's eliminate him. We have 2 in the queue. Let's add one more in. I will add one more just to consider for.
The top 2 guys in the queue are the guys I want.
Yeah, those
we'll
2
talk
are great.
About them right when we pick.
And I'll throw out.
It looks like we're going to get one.
Sort of when you are stuck at this range in the draft, because these, we can talk about when we're OTC, but when you're stuck at this range in the draft, the two guys I added in makes some sense. But this is fine. We're going to take Michael Pittman.
Yeah,
This is
I wanted Devonta Smith there. So I just did a study yesterday. Michael Pittman's great, and
let's
Michael Pittman
lock him in.
also.
Lock him in.
Yeah. Okay, let's get him going. I did a study that I published yesterday. What happened there?
We got Pittman.
Yeah, okay, good. So I did a study that I published yesterday. It's over on Fantasy Line. This one's for free. And basically what I do is I take all the Vegas lines, receptions, yards, touchdowns. I put them in a spreadsheet. Because there's so many lines out there, there's so many player props. I was able to get nearly 50 players in there, and then basically just translate that to PPR points and compare it to their ADP. Now, it doesn't include rushing, so guys like Deebo Samuel are always going to look kind of low in there, Jaden Reed, but most of these guys, we don't factor in rushing kind of at all. There's only a handful of guys that involve that. Two guys, Devonta Smith was going based on that is going like 7 spots below where he should be going. According to Vegas odds and what they project for this guy, he should be going at like the 1-2 swing, right? And then a guy like Pittman's another one where everything like Vegas is daring you to bet that he's not going to have 1,000 yards. They're daring you to bet that he's not going to have 7-8 touchdowns, right? And typically with this stuff, we would bet the under because you also get the out of an injury. For me, when I see Vegas having that sort of confidence in Michael Pittman, the guy that would have led the entire league in routes run had he not gotten hurt with that cheap shot, right? He had 5 games with literally 100% of the snaps. Like this guy is to me is as locked as he can get. So that's why I really don't mind picking Breece Hall in the first because there are guys here going in this range that could be the wide receiver 1 overall.
Yeah, and Pittman opens us up to some correlation with the Colts. There's other Colts that we'll be interested in. I think that offense could take a huge step forward. I love your Devonta Smith call. He's a guy that I also think his numbers will be very similar to his 2022 season. The Kellen Moore offense, there's all sorts of rumors he's going to be in the slot. And if we're talking about a Devonta Smith in that Keenan Allen role, that CeeDee Lamb role. Okay, so Coop, for me here, even though we don't have correlation, this is sort of like we're at the 505 and Josh Allen still on the board.
Are we going to be the guys that take the first tight end and the first quarterback?
It's
usually
a little square here, but Josh Allen, like when you're stuck in this range, it's pretty flat to me. If you want to push up,
I look around, it's like, dude, are people really taking like Christian Kirk or Jake Ferguson over the QB1?
People are pushing up these wide receivers, but to me, it's like you can't lose with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts in this range. Last year, those guys were going in this exact same format at like the 2-3 turn. You'd see it often where Josh Allen would go like 24th overall, Jalen Hurts would go like 25th or 26th overall. And then in a few main events, those guys got pushed inside the second round. And again, like the market was quarterback crazy last year, and maybe a little too much, but it feels like an overcorrection to get Josh Allen. I mean, Coop, we got this team is fucked. This team is nasty. I almost cursed on your stream just now.
It is crazy. What'd you say?
I said I almost cursed on your stream.
Yeah, go crazy.
No. I'm gonna keep it PG for all the kids watching live drafts in the summertime.
The kids, dude.
But we've got now we're like with Allen and LaPorta, we have no pressure. And also when we draft Josh Allen, you can go naked at QB. Yeah. He doesn't have a bye until week 12. We only have to worry about 1 week there.
There's some stabs to take there. I will say for all the kids, because you mentioned all the kids watching at home. For all the kids watching at home, don't draft a tight end that runs a 4.8 40 ahead of Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, again, he is a top 2 target on the team. He should be fine, but I'm not taking Jake Ferguson before.
Well, it just got personal with Coop, who's been a longtime Jake Ferguson fader. To have somebody cram him in before Josh Allen, that was right after Josh Allen, before Jalen Hurts. It just got personal, Coop. You just got tilted, bro.
I am sorry. Quasimodo, don't mean to insult your team. Jake Ferguson is exactly just fine. But for me, I'm trying to win $1 million here, dude. I can't have a crazy slow tight end that, like, even think about Zach Ertz, right? Zach Ertz used to get absolutely peppered with targets, but because he runs like a 4.7.6, he only had one ever 1,000-yard season, and he needed 156 targets to get there. Jake Ferguson is slower than Zach Ertz, right? Tight ends that run in the 4.8 range over the last 7 years, there's been no tight ends that have had more than two 40-yard plays. They just you can't get away from people when you're that slow. So Jake Ferguson can be good, he can be fine, but he needs to be absolutely cooked with targets. I mean, last year he was the second target on the team. He had over 100. He caught 71 balls and he only had like 760 yards. Whereas Kyle Pitts, as a rookie, caught like 60 balls. He had over 1,000 yards. George Kittle last year caught what, 65, and he had well over 1,000 yards.
Yep.
It's like I just can't in a format like this. I know it's 10 premium. I just can't. My fifth round pick is not going to be a tight end that is just insanely slow.
Okay, so I love where our Q's at. I think number one's a no-brainer. I think number two is somebody we could consider. And then after that, it becomes a little bit, it's whether you want to push somebody up or not. I think that one's going to be there, but what do you think about two here, Coop? Are you open to that as an upside guy in this format in the flex? This is pretty late for him as well. And it's sort of like the prophecy for those two guys to play together on the same team. Why wouldn't it be with the tight end whisperer, Coop?
Yeah, I mean, it is intriguing to me.
I might pound the table if number one's gone. Listen,
if
number
he's
one's
gone, I'm in. Hey,
okay,
if number one the
we're
queue
cooking.
goes, then I'm down for
We're
it.
cooking. That's a
then
dream.
we're kind of done.
Then you might as well log out and end the stream. We'll go auto draft
it
after
is
that.
crazy.
It's over.
Because the thing is, I think about it, man, and the possibility is I wasn't in right. I didn't like the landing spot. I had to get over it, but we'll talk about it if that player comes up here. I'm looking at this board. If Cooper Kupp had fallen to us one spot instead of Jaylen Waddle, and I love Jaylen Waddle, there's an argument to be made that we drafted the RB1, the tight end 1. Cooper Kupp could be the wide receiver 1. Josh Allen could be the QB 1. Like the start to this draft, pretty bonkers.
Okay, so now we're OTC here. Okay, so it takes it. We were going to take Brock Bowers, but now it's easy. Deontay Johnson is sort of like after Deontay. I think it starts getting a little sketchy at wide receiver. Like Keenan Allen obviously scored a lot last year. You don't love hearing that he's put on some weight, and then Reed and Watson in Green Bay, a lot of question marks there. And then after that, you're starting to go with a little bit of more of a speculative. There's some wide receivers I still like, but now Coop. We have three wide receivers that I think two of them project to be the number one targets on their team. And the other one is Jaylen Waddle, a guy who's, again, had two top 15 wide receiver seasons in his career, 3 straight years with 1,000 yards on the best offense in football. Another thing we've done, Coop, is we've avoided the dreaded week 14 guys sort of naturally, where FFPC, you also have in this sort of a format and also FFPC main events, those week 14 guys, as enticing as Michael Pitman is, Anthony Richardson is, and obviously as Lamar Jackson and some of those Ravens are, week 14 is sketchy because that's the money weeks. Week 14 and week 15 get you to the playoffs there. So it's like, I don't know, week 14 always scares me a little bit with FFPC guys. I've learned the hard way where you get to a championship game with an absolute monster and you're having to pick guys off like late waiver wire guys to help you out. So
it gets ugly,
it's tough. So 7th round, we're sort of open to going a number of ways.
I'll throw a couple guys in the queue here. Yeah, throw a couple more in.
I really like number 1. If he's there, I think it's an auto smash.
I wanted James Conner, but he just went.
James Conner's a really good value right now. And also, for people drafting James Conner, you can stack with Trey Benson so easily if you're worried about his injuries. The fact that Benson sort of has no buzz right now, and there's been some poor reports, but don't get it twisted. If James Conner was lost for the season, it's not going to be one of these guys like DeMercado or Michael Carter. No. It's going to be Trey Benson. So Trey Benson's a value right now in drafts. And it's an easy handcuff situation.
And that's why I like James Conner so much, is that they kind of mentioned that, like the beat writers are saying that Trey Benson does the same things and he's the heir apparent, which that's the true handcuff. We don't want them doing different things. We don't want to split. We want starter and then guy that mixes in when he's tired who does the same things. That's the ideal setup. So we're on the clock here.
Coop, I'll throw this out there. Like I see your number 4 does not. It just feels like a purgatory value. And
I just moved a guy to the top of the queue. Can we take him? Can we take him?
The number 1 at the top of the queue is I love. So there's no argument for me.
And we're talking about the same guy.
Wait, hold on a second. Is it? We can talk openly. Are you talking about JSN or are you talking about somebody else?
I moved Christian Watson to the top.
Okay, so let's take Christian Watson. To me, they're about the same, in the same tier. Watson, big time upside, and also like we can afford to be wrong with this pick. If whatever we have so much stability at the wide receiver position, we also have very strong weekly points with LaPorta for this format. So like 7th round, JSN was absolutely in our queue as well. But if we're gonna pick one of these guys to have 10 touchdown catches this year, it's Christian Watson.
Yeah. To Scamper's point, David Montgomery was next in our queue.
So David Montgomery was next in our queue for sure.
Next. We would have been interested, but we wanted the targets with Deontay Johnson. Now we're pretty loaded at wide receiver. We can take a little breather here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I would say that like the one problem with taking a breather is a lot of those guys after round 10 are really speculation plays at wide receiver. Right. So I've been comfortable having like a wide receiver 5 that I like. There's a couple guys coming up that make a little bit of sense. And again, we have the Breece Hall anchor at running back, so we're a little like less. We're not really having to play catch up at running back points, even though we don't have an RB2 yet heading into round 8. Round 8 through 11, running backs will be there. But once you get a little bit deeper in this format, if you play FFPC, wide receiver just gets cleaned up. A lot of the upside guys that people are like, when is this guy going to go? That guy's going to go in like the next round, if you're wondering.
Yeah. What I find like for us now let's talk tight end real quick. There's maybe 1 or 2 guys that are going to go within the next
round,
5 or 6 tight ends, maybe that I would consider. But I find that these guys get steamed up a little bit, and then they go a little earlier than they should. There is value in like the tight end 20 or so range. So I want to keep with one of our last couple picks. There's at least 1 or 2 tight ends I want to take. So let's not.
No, that's fine.
Maybe we could take a second one, but I just know that we're going to draft 3 or 4.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So we don't want to overdo it in the mid range unless 2 guys I like are exactly available at the right spots.
That's fair. I think that you really round 8 to me is best available almost. I put one player in the queue, Coop, as this could be the kind of the hammer situation at tight end.
Yeah,
that's
the guy I'm talking about. That's the guy I like.
Yeah, but I'm gonna check and let me just double check and see what the last few days are looking at. So and then
we're being kind of mysterious on this show because we know one team. For those that are just joining us late, we're drafting a $350 FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship League. We won this entry by winning last year on this format. Theo and I play a ton of FFPC. So there are people in the chat that we know are in the draft. Shout out to our guy, Guile. One of the teams changed his name to the law firm of Cooper and Gremminger. So we know that he is paying attention to what's going on here. So we are being a little cryptic, but
Coop, I will say, I don't think
we talk through all of them.
I think there's a chance he's going to be there in round 9 as well. I don't think we need to push it here round 8.
Yeah. Alex in the chat says, Odunze moving up the boards.
Big time moving up.
That is one that here's my advice on Odunze. Go to your sports book and look at the odds for Odunze. And if you like him, start betting some overs because the sports books do not like Rome Odunze. They think that he is going to be the 3rd wide receiver on the team behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And they think that this team, of course, has multiple tight ends that they want to rotate in there with Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet. So they're predicting him to be a part-time player the way Jackson Smith and Jiggle was. So for me, I'm not necessarily super excited about drafting that as ADP, but I think I'm going to place some bets. Dude, his over-under for yards is like 600 yards.
Well, I will say that a lot of that is baked in with Keenan Allen playing a full season. And we've seen the wheels fall off on some of these older wide receivers, especially when they switch teams. Allen was great last year, but I don't know. So my whole thing with Odunze is I drafted him the other day. If you're drafting him to be your wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2, I agree with you. There's a ton of risk. But if you're drafting him as your wide receiver 5, it's an upside case. Coop, I want to throw out one thing.
He could also just be the odd man out the way Chris Godwin was as a rookie. and just be okay.
Okay, so we are OTC here. I think this is relatively flat. It comes down to structure with whether you're comfortable going with another wide receiver or you want to go with a running back. Because I could go with a number of arguments here at the running back position. There's one I just added in the queue I like. I like number 3 in our queue a lot. I think he's really, really good value.
Yeah.
But if you want to cram in a
I
correlation,
don't like taking him. Yeah, let's take Keon Coleman.
Okay, so let's take Keon, and I think a running back will be there for us in the ninth. We're taking Keon Coleman again over Lad McConkey and a couple other upside plays, but we get the correlation if he hits. And it's sort
We
of
have
like
Josh Allen.
yeah, and it's also sort of like with Watson and Coleman, we have 2 wide receivers that if they hit, then they're really, really a potential
With
hammer.
Keon Coleman, I mean, like the stars are aligning. He could be Treylon Burks, right? We've seen it before, right? We saw the Titans trade away AJ Brown. Basically, what happened is the Vikings traded away Diggs and then drafted Justin Jefferson, and it was amazing and high fives all around. And teams saw that and said, "Well, we'll just do that. We won't pay AJ Brown, and we'll just draft our own Justin Jefferson." It turned out that was Treylon Burks. So in this situation, like we all understand that there's Diggs is gone. There's huge opportunity. Keon Coleman could be a star, or he could completely faceplant. Right? He's got the profile that could faceplant, but we're giving ourselves a chance at that upside, and he's not even in our starting lineup based on who we have right now, right?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. It's again like when you get to this range of the wide receivers, I really want to swing for the fences as well.
Right.
There's a couple of floor plays, but when you like taking Coleman, if we didn't have Josh Allen, we could have risked him going a little bit later. But I just wanted to cram that one in. In our queue now, I think we have to push number 3 down to the bottom and kind of look
Yes.
at structure here.
I don't even like that pick. I'm taking him out. I'm taking TJ Hawkinson out of our queue.
Okay, so we'll take him out of the queue. The top 3 are good, and I will say number 4 is starting to slide up boards, and I think he's going to be a really good pick if we want to lean away from running back. But I do think running back here makes some sense, and there's going to be one there for us.
We have to take a running back, and I'm also taking Brian Robinson Jr. out of the queue. I don't want him at all.
Oh my god! I see. I bump heads.
Stinks,
bump heads.
dude. Actually, no, he doesn't stink. He doesn't stink. He's a good player. Here's the problem: Austin Eckler already told us what they're doing. He's joining back up with his former coach Anthony Lynn, who is now he was the coach of the Chargers. Now he's the running back coach for the Commanders. They're going to run a 2-back system, and they have a mobile QB. So not only is Brian Robinson fighting the war on the Western Front with Eckler, but on the Eastern Front, he's got Jaden Daniels vulturing touchdowns. Jaden Daniels already scored a rushing touchdown in the preseason when they tell these guys not to run. It's like it scares me.
Okay, well we have 2 in the queue.
I like either one, and if they're both there, I defer to you. I like them both.
I will go with with number 1.
I think we should take 1
slightly because I think he's got the receiving upside, and I think number 2 is sort of a cap ceiling player. Let's go Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard. So here's my argument for Tony Pollard, right? And I like Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears, whoever's going cheaper. And Tajay Spears went before Tony Pollard. The running back coach for the Titans, they asked him what is different about the skill sets of these players, and he went on this long, rambling diatribe that didn't really make a whole lot of sense until the very end. At the very end, he kind of hinted these guys have similar skill sets. We like them both. We think they can all do everything. And he goes, I'm going to be counting touches this year. He goes, I consider passes out of the backfield to be no different to a carry, and that's what we're going to be counting, right? And what that tells us is that they're going to be looking at these guys and trying to keep it kind of even, right? 2 guys, both of them working out, playing. But the reality is, whoever the starter is, historically gets more carries and more touches than the other guy. Look at last year, 30 of 32 teams. The running back that started the most games led the team in carries. The only teams where it didn't happen were the Patriots and the Packers. That to me says, okay, we're at least with Tony Pollard, we're at least getting half the gig minimum. He's going to be the starter, and there's upside if Tajay Spears gets hurt. So I have no problem drafting either of those guys, whoever's cheaper. There you go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think they're both fine. And I know Billy Muzio, who I host First Class Fantasy with, He's on both of those guys. Nelson Sousa, who I split some teams with,
Down.
who's one of the best. I added 2 in our queue at running back. I added 1 wide receiver that I think is very interesting for our build.
I got to address this comment in the chat here.
What's
Dynasty
the comment?
Coach A, our buddy John, says makes up for the Watson pick. You and your Formula Beth, who is it's a great program. I don't know. You guys missed Nico Collins pretty hard last year, and I think Christian Watson, he's my candidate to be this year's Nico Collins, a guy that Nico Collins dealt with injury for 2 years. He showed flashes, and then once everything came together in the offense with Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud, it was wheels up and great applause and high fives all around. And I think that with Christian Watson, he's doing the hamstring study. The offense, the stars are aligning with this offense. And he, when healthy last year, led the team in snaps, target share, routes, air yards, touchdowns, you name it. From that draft class, he has more touchdowns than any wide receiver from that draft class. More than Drake London, more than Garrett Wilson, more than Chris Olave. Like, this guy has the possibility to just go nuclear. So
yeah, I mean, he looked like big Tyreek Hill at times his rookie season, just running away from defenses. And I think last year, a lot of drafters got burned on Christian Watson, where you were using like that 3rd round pick on him in July drafts, 3rd, 4th round in August drafts, and then the obviously the ADP slipped when he started being banged up. But with Watson, I think he does have the highest upside of any wide receiver in that room. And I like Jaden Reed more than Coop does. Like, and I understand your trepidation there.
I like him
Coop,
too. He's safe.
He's safe, but he's capped a little bit. I mean, I think we saw like Reed play great last year, but that was without Aaron Jones, without Christian Watson for a lot of those games. So we're creeping back up here.
Jaden Reed, if he has the same role he has last year, where he played in 3 wide receiver sets but came off the field for 2 wide receiver sets, where he was a part-time player, which is kind of the Tyler Boyd role. If he has that role, he needs to also have 200 to 300 rushing yards and multiple rushing touchdowns.
Okay, so
we're on the clock now. I added some really lame running backs.
Yeah, I know. I almost threw up when I saw number 4. Number 3 could twist my arm. We could double tap with 3, but I do think 3 will be there. I think it comes down to you have it's sort of Tony Pollard sort of gives you a bridge to this player, where you wouldn't have to lean on him at all. It would just be a pure upside case on our bench. But number 2, Coop, it's a double bet on one of those 2 becoming very weekly viable.
Yeah.
Then if you're not into it, let's not do it.
I'd say if he's there next pick with that one, I say we just bet on something that we know is going to happen. We know that James Conner's going to miss games.
Yeah, so let's go with Trey Benson. And this is our, again, kind of like the Watson pick. And this is an upside swing play. Trey Benson's a guy that's been beat up by coach speak.
See, Gus Edwards just went. Should we have taken Gus Edwards? He's such a boring play.
He's so boring. And honestly, I kind of am betting on somebody else I put in the queue.
Yeah.
And again, like, I think the whole idea of Gus is we're not talking about like in a best ball format. I can understand Gus a little bit more, but in a redraft format, I think if you had to bet on Gus Edwards leading all Chargers running backs in points scored for the year, I can get behind that. But in terms of
the chat doesn't like you bashing number 4. And I will say, I also am very defensive of this player. Like, everything you're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to answer this question for Ann Dunn?
Sure. I was just staring at the board. Let me open this up. Hold on.
It's Nico Collins or Chris Olave as a keeper with no penalty. I know who I'm picking, but
Nico Collins or Chris Olave as a keeper with no round penalty. It's Chris Olave.
It's Chris Olave. Yeah, we like Nico, but it's Olave for all the reasons we talked about earlier. And highly consolidated offense. Going to be using the fullback. Running game is going to be a little better. So I think that's an easy one here. And Nico, he's a big split end. He should stay on the field, but now he's competing with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. That could turn into a situation where somebody's going off every week and we don't know who it's going to be. So we're coming back around here.
There's a number of ways we could go here. I'll just throw out, I threw one guy in the queue. I know you're probably not crazy about. We can wait on that. Number 3 in the queue. Number 4 in the queue is getting a little steam. And we don't really need one because it sort of seems like if we were chasing RB2 still, I don't know. For me, it's I think number 4 is behind a 29-year-old running back, and he's already going to probably have a weekly role.
Right.
And
4 is growing on me.
4
There's a couple of these later round backs that I'm actually all of a sudden liking that I
there's a number of them, but there's one I really want to get for, and that
Ray Davis just went.
Ray
Yeah.
Davis would have. There's one I really want to get. I'm putting him in the. We'll just talk this out. But just before we pick, I want to get this player maybe next round at the bottom of our queue based on our structure, because it really protects us. And I think what we're doing, running back wise, I'll throw one more guy in the queue.
We're on the clock here. So
yeah, I see it. We got 45 seconds, Coop. We're Gucci. I'll throw a couple more in. I do think that there's 2, 5, and 7. Whoever you like the most of those 3, I think we take.
All right. Let's take 2.
Okay, let's take 2. And again, we're like Aaron Jones' new team. Aaron Jones has never been a guy who has worked as he's always been in somewhat of a committee, even though he's a great per touch player. But 29 years old, and Ty Chandler was very good to end the year last year. Yeah. Familiarity with the coaching staff. I think he's going to be sort of a guy where if we get stuck and we need 10 points out of this RB2 spot, I think we'll get it. But
he's Alexander Madison.
12th round, I'd really like to consider adding number 5.
I want to see Keenan Nwangwu get more touches. This guy
never going to happen. Never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. But every time he gets the ball, it's electric, right?
Yeah.
Like, he ran back 3 kicks in his first 2 years. Every time they just throw him out there, I feel like he's just taking it for 60 yards. What is he? Can't understand the playbook? Probably. I mean, I'm sure he can't pass block, something like that.
Yeah, there's. I mean, the guy
player number 4 just went. So why don't you tell everybody who?
Okay, so I don't. I've double tapped. I used to double tap Zeke Dowdle. Double tap used to be my thing to do, but now you're seeing Dowdle steam up. So you like in a lot of. Actually, I did it in a few dynasty startups just as a, cheap source of running back points.
So ruin your team.
Double tap your running back.
Dowdle already went.
Dowdle's steaming up.
Yeah.
Dowdle, you're starting to see Dowdle steam up. There's a couple people that are making Dowdle, like a couple people in the industry that are making Dowdle part of their big drafts plans, and you're starting to see a couple of these high volume, high stakes players continually drafting Dowdle. I get Zeke. Zeke looks like he's running with a piano on his back every single clip I see.
I know.
Coopy's so old. He was so solid for that. Like that one. It was like that Thursday night game where they beat the hell out of. They beat the hell out of like Pittsburgh, right?
He led the team. He led the team.
They had like 30. He had like 30 points that game. It was like without Mondre, Zeke went nuts, and everybody was like brushing dirt off their shoulders about how like Zeke was like the waiver wire ad of the year that week. And I think I don't know. The guy's home in Dallas, and you tell yourself a story that he could be this year's Gus Edwards and just fall in the end zone a lot of times. I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell myself the story. So real quick before I added a couple guys to the queue, you add a couple guys for our next pick. Just wanted to anybody joining us late. We're drafting an FFPC Fantasy Pros Championship, $350 buy-in, $6 million in the pot, and if you win, then you get $1 million. If you want to draft with us, go over to myffpc.com. Use promo code COOP. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more. All right. You can scan the QR code right there on the screen. Well, look at that. It says 2024 Fantasy Pros Championship right on it. Looks like somebody did a little prep for the show today, Theo. What the heck?
Listen,
so you can scan. Yeah.
It's not your first rodeo, right?
Yeah. So you scan that up, get in there, promo code COOP. They'll hook you up with $25 when you deposit $35 or more. FFPC is the place where the best fantasy gamers play. This is where all the high stakes sharks play. And if you win something like this and you put it in your Twitter bio, like then now you have some real respect. Anybody can win their hometown league and say, oh, I'm really good at fantasy. I always come in top 3 in my hometown league. Blah, blah. Nobody cares. But if you win an FFPC main event or Fantasy Pros and put in your Twitter bio, FFPC main event champion, well, people click on your bio. They're like, oh, wow, this guy has literal receipts that he's incredible at fantasy. So go over to FFPC, get set up, get some of those badges of honor on your name and some big dollars in your pocket. All
so
right?
we get sniped on Braylon Allen there, Coop. I would have
loved because we're taking Rasheed Shahed.
Well,
it's time.
Is it time? Or is he going to be there in the 13th round?
No, his ADP is
Okay, so
140.
let's take him. Take him.
This guy,
Shaheed's fine.
I'm telling you with Shaheed, there's a real possibility that we talked about with this Clint Kubiak offense coming in from San Francisco, and they're going to use the fullback and they're going to use a blocking tight end that highly consolidates the snaps among top 2 wide receivers. Olave is going to be one. They rotate the other guys, or maybe Chris Olave is the full-time guy, and he's kind of in that, for lack of better words, Tyreek Hill, speedster, field stretcher role. We know he can hit home runs. We know he can return punts and kicks and all that. There's a real possibility that this offense is custom built to have 2 wide receivers, Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, Nico Collins and Tank Dell last year. This year, same offense comes over from San Francisco, Chris Olave and Rasheed Shaheed. When we win $1 million, we will clip this and we'll play it all over the internet.
So I'll say I did in the Athletic. I had an article where it was trying to pick this year's Nico Collins, and I had Shaheed in there. It's year 3 for him, much like Collins. There's a lack of a secondary pass catcher, and you have the fact that Alvin Kamara is old. Coop,
Stars are aligning. Alvin Kamara already has a bad back.
Yeah,
The
and
doctor says he needs a backiotomy.
and also back out of him for sure, and also like everything kind of fell into place for Kamara. But I think in an ideal situation, they have 2 wide receivers that are producing, and I actually think you're going to see a little more Taysom Hill consistency with Kubiak, like on a weekly basis. Not necessarily something that we can lean on in our lineups, but just as an expectation for the team. I think Shaheed kind of has to be a thing. He's also one of the last wide receivers available that you could legitimately paint a picture that he finishes as an RB2. I can pick like one more guy where if 1 or 2 things happen, he could get there. But he's probably the guy to bet on. So I think it's fine. I would like number 1 or number 2 to fall.
So you
to
say it's going to be this year's Nico Collins, and then it's going to be fine.
Listen, I had to, the mental picture was, the Christian Watson obviously there.
Christian Watson is Nico Collins.
But
and also Rasheed Shaheed, also Nico Collins. Our team's awesome.
In the
Keon Coleman is Justin Jefferson.
In the royal sense, though, like Christian Watson, you have to use a 7th, 8th round pick. My man Nico, you were getting like where we're getting Rasheed Shaheed. So listen. We got 2 guys who could be this year's Nico Collins. We got them both, Coop. So
who's going to be this year's Kyron Williams? Is it going to be Bucky Irving or is it going to be Marshawn Lloyd?
I could make a case for either of these guys as contingent upside plays. I think if we're the appeal to Bucky is he could be a little bit of a handcuff plus in the sense that Ty Chandler is. I mean, I think if it's a pure swing for the fences, it's Marshawn Lloyd. But
I think I like Bucky, man.
So let's go Bucky. To me, they're the same. They're both really, really enticing picks in the 13th round. Let's go Bucky.
Because I like Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to have a good year. And with Bucky, this is one of those. Again, if you're looking for this year's Kyron Williams, picking a slow running back, which is what Kyron Williams is. I think Bucky has some. He's got some crazy pass catching chops, right? And there's a certain level of that can't be taught, right? The ability to recognize situations, the fluidness of catching a pass. It doesn't matter that he's super slow if he does have those like James White smarts to him. Like you look at some of these guys, Gio Bernard and Samaje Perine and James White, that just get it. They just understand the pass pro schemes. Again, he could be the next Royce Freeman who understands pass pro schemes and just not very good. But like these guys that have the aptitude to catch balls, they seem to always find their way into some sort of role, right? So I don't know. I can see it. Plus, Rachaad White. I mean, is he that good?
Well, he was certainly amplified by the Dave Canales system. The yards per carry is not necessarily something that carries year to year, but the yards per carry last year just weren't good. Rachaad White, though, he does have 50 plus receptions back-to-back seasons. I think there's an argument to be made that they're both fine picks at ADP. I got Rachaad White in like the 6th round of a draft the other day, but Bucky Irving, like this is definitely the way more pressure behind him with Irving than we saw at any point last season. Last season, like they had to give him all those touches because it was just such garbage behind him. It was like Sean Tucker coming off of a big injury as an undrafted free agent. They wanted Chase Edmonds to sort of be a not really a thing, but a weekly touch guy. It was never there. So I think with Bucky, like there's an upside case if White misses time. There's also like the weekly floor play where Bucky Irving led all college players in receptions last year. And the Bucks chose him at the beginning of the 4th round, where he was like the 6th running back selected in this whole draft class.
Right.
So they obviously
That's
value
what I mean.
him.
It's like, yeah, you're not going to take that guy where you did. That was always the question with Bucky. Like if he went undrafted, we would look at his profile and say, okay, yeah, that guy stinks. But
So
because of all the metrics, right? But the fact that he did get drafted where he did, it kind of speaks to, their confidence in the player, considering his profile, right?
So I'll say in our queue right now, number 1 would be an absolute no-brainer if he's there at 1408, no discussion. I'll
Yes.
say the double tap of 3 and 4 in the next here with 3 and then 4 2 rounds later, I think is a high value double tap.
So much capital.
Okay, so then
Even
forget it.
now, even
Josh
in the
Downs
15th.
Josh Downs goes off the board. I would have liked to combine him with Pitman, especially with the injury where he was playing so well, and I think they do have a plan for him.
Look at
But
this
he's slowed
comment.
down.
When is Theo going to pick? I'm teasing. Theo, first of all, Theo is the one loading up the queue.
Guys,
like every player we've picked is a Theo player. Not to mention Theo also picked Ty Chandler, Trey Benson, Tony Pollard, Sam LaPorta, Josh Allen. Like this is Theo's team.
Guys, listen, we're splitting the team, but anytime anybody wants to draft against me, I'm in these FFPC streets like multiple times a week. I'm doing one Sunday night on Player Profiler channel for an FFPC main event, and I'm in the. We're trying.
Right.
This is we're sharing, guys. We're sharing.
Yeah. So Marshawn Lloyd went.
That would have been really
double
nice.
tapping both move not possible. Somebody took a defense, which
I think it's number 1. If not, I think I'm pounding the table for number 2. I know there's some guys you like late, but Coop, this is like the second half of the year type hammer pick where I think it could work out very well. I'll throw one more guy into consideration. Let me pull him up. We're 2 picks away here, so we got a little bit of time. Let me see what we're doing here.
I'm throwing a couple guys in here too.
It's a little early, but I would like to consider number 6, maybe next pick. Number 4 is fine.
I wouldn't take him here. I wouldn't take him here. I just wanted you to see that name and start thinking.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I think he's fine. Okay, so for me, I think this is structurally makes sense to take number 1.
I covered I forget what I think it was one of these. I covered it on Tuesday, and I talked for 5 minutes about this player. We're taking Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, let's take him.
I want to hear your thoughts because I think it's for what we've done. I mean, he might be in our lineup week 1.
I'm bullish. I'm bullish on Mondre. I'm bullish on Mondre this year.
Me too.
We're not. I would be shocked. Tony Pollard's got to be our dude week 1 in the RB2 spot. But yeah, like all it takes is a Mondre injury, and just the fact that they had Jalen Reagor and Thornton as their starting wide receivers last night is insane to me. That they're not just using Baker and Polk. Demario Douglas is going to catch his fair share of balls, but I think they're going to have to lean on their running backs a lot in this offense. We saw Mondre miss some time last year. The team obviously is very invested in Mondre. They gave him the big contract. But Antonio Gibson had his career high in receptions last year. It's been a guy who's continually been a good receiver out of the backfield with some juice. And I think Ron Rivera sort of hated Antonio Gibson. There's the argument that Antonio Gibson just isn't good, where Washington, didn't like Antonio Gibson. They thought he made some mistakes here and there. But fantasy-wise, I think he makes some sense. And again, this is good value for him in the 14th. You a lot of times see him go in the 13th in these drafts, Coop. So I mean, like, we're splitting hairs here. It's a 14th round running back, and now structurally, I think we've caught up where we now have 6 running backs. There's zero pressure on us to draft even another running back. I feel like there was maybe we'll get a 7th, but it's not. But Antonio Gibson really helps us. So with Gibson, Irving, Chandler, Benson, we have 4 running backs where if the contingent upside, and I think all 4 of them would catch passes if they had the opportunity to. So they all would be ranked as RB2s if the starter ahead of them went down. Our queue's getting decimated.
It
Watson
is.
and Sinnott go off the board. So let's
I removed Ertz from our queue because
yeah,
Sinnett's
there's
gone.
yeah.
What do you think about the two little squirrely boys I put at the top of the queue there?
Honestly, I'm not crazy about it. I don't think any of those. I don't think those guys have any real edge for us. I think
if you want to just go pure upside,
I think
take Ricky Bearsall
for
here.
me it's Pearsall here.
Yeah,
and it's
you were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, Pearsall for sure would have been the
We're
guy.
trying to win $1 million here. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
not going to take Demario Douglas as much as I love him.
Another thing to remember.
The other guy in the queue there, the number 2 on our queue, I will say there's a world where he, and again, when I say the names of the players I'm about to say, it doesn't mean that guy is going to be these guys, but there's a world where he ends up in a Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb role where he's playing a lot of slot because CeeDee Lamb was a slot wide receiver. He played ran the fourth most routes of any player from the slot and he ran less than 300 routes out wide. There's a world where the player I'm alluding to is utilized that way.
Coop, I like your number 4 in the queue for if we're coming back around in the 16th round. I think we just take him.
He's must draft for me. Okay,
so and I agree. I think it's the argument for him is strong. I'll say that if you're drafting FFPC drafts, one thing to remember if you're drafting main events and you're drafting 350s like this is you get 2 games with a free look. So if you ever get to like the 18th, 19th, 20th round and you're stuck, just draft a Packer, Eagle, Raven, or Kansas City Chief.
Yeah,
because there's a waiver wire run where you can drop those guys out, and then for example, you could take a 20th round Tez Walker.
Every league where I have Mark Andrews, I draft Isaiah Likely as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I love Likely. Likely's interesting, Coop, because I know you always. I mean, you cover the tight end spot better than anybody. I'm interested in Isaiah Likely though, because him as the number 3 target. You've had this guy. Last year, he had 3 games with like 18 or more points in the second half of the year. He's a beast. And even if I'm going to bet on a number 3 targeted tight end, Isaiah Likely would definitely be one of them because the wide receiver competition around him, besides Zay Flowers, is just so minimal. And I think they're going to be in 12 a ton this year. So let's hope your guy is there. We'll just snap him up as our tight end too.
He will be there.
And then it's also time to think about
kickers.
Yeah, it's time to think about that because I don't like using the 19th and 20th round pick on them.
We should consider it. So for those that have never done one of these, you have to draft a defensive kicker. It's in the rules. If you technically you can not draft them, but the commissioners, aka the admins, will auto drop your last player and just add one to your team.
That's right.
So you might as well draft one. And again, I think there is an advantage to taking one in the 17th or 18th round because in the last couple rounds, everybody has to take one anyway. So maybe not a kicker, but a defense I do like taking. The defense I like best though is gone. The Jets.
Yeah, the Jets D is kind of nasty. I think that if you get stuck on defense these days in these drafts and you don't want to take a super premium one, just take Cincinnati against Coop's Patriots.
Giles
in week 1 and just roll with it.
Giles in the chat. We got Beefo Barnes probably in here. Christopher Diaz says we should get a FanDuel lineup going on this show throughout the season. Theo's going to be back on during the season. I'll send you the Excel. You can pick whatever week you want. But on Friday, what we do is we do an FFPC weekly team where we load up. You can take any players you want, but you can't take 2 players from the same team, which is really cool because you can draft like an absolute star-studded lineup, but there's no stacking. You don't have to worry about like Mahomes throwing to Kelsey and then that just breaks everything. You can't have both Mahomes and Kelsey. So it's really cool. We got some cool people coming on. I think week 3 is like Justin Boone. We've got some fun people coming to hang out. So that's what we're going to do on this show. But with Fantasy Alarm, we have everything for you. Go over to fantasyalarm.com and get yourself an all-pro membership. And if you use promo code Let's Go, you can get 50% off for the first month. Or you can just get 50% off for the entire annual one if you just want to be a full-time member. That gets you our draft guide. That gets you our best ball cheat sheet. That gets you everything. It gets you into our Discord, and that's where we make millions. We had a guy win $1 million in our Discord, Millionaire Mike. He bought a boat. So go get set up with that. We're coming up on the clock here.
Yeah,
And our guy is there as long as Quasimodo's doesn't take.
Coop, do a little scroll down here with the draft board so we can see these last couple rounds.
Yep. Let me just ask the tech guy to handle it behind the glass. Thank you, producer, for handling that. I'm the producer for this one. Okay. Let's go, Kazi. It always makes me nervous when it's like you got a guy way down. He's way down here in the rankings. He's not even close to being up next in ADP. But I know there's some sickos in these drafts that think like us.
Okay, so let's take him. Let's take
Jordan Whittington.
People are starting to take a little Jordan Whittington.
A little.
I bid against myself in a dynasty league. I got him off the waivers this week. But yeah, Whittington, you're starting to see a lot of times you're seeing in these FFPC formats, if somebody takes Cup or if somebody takes Nakua, you're also going to see them follow up with a Whittington in like round 15. He looks so good in the preseason game the other day, and there's a lot of reports. And McVay's not hurting anything, just continually complimenting the guy. But we get
if you say this year's Puka Nakua, we're fighting.
There's no this year's Puka Nakua. This year's Puka Nakua, you have to draft him in round 1. Or in round 3. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors are the two guys. The unless there's a double injury.
Javon Baker.
No. Javon, who's giving you that? Javon Baker's this year's Nakua. I've seen people say that. It's wild. I'll tell you,
there's no this year's Puka Nakua, but if there is, it's Javon, baby.
Okay, I'll give you the one. I'll give you the one like my pet.
We'll take Javon if he's there next pick.
Do you want to? Well, I'll say that the one argument I'll make against you is that number 5. You set it and forget it and get your weekly guy. Baker could be there next round because like there's guys I see that are. I'll say a couple of these high end kickers, high end defenses are interesting. I'll say that the guy who's I'll add him to the queue sometimes goes below Baker. We could take Baker if you want though, Coop. Like if you want to pound the table for him.
I'm not gonna demand it. I think that we probably I don't know. I kind of feel like
so the argument for taking number 7 in our queue is that you get the free look. So every week matters, and even though he's a premium guy, you don't necessarily have to use him week 1, and you could also drop somebody who's not him and just sub him in. Defense wise, there's a couple of interesting ones as well, but there's nobody that like looks like a complete edge. I'm of the opinion you take. I like the idea of taking a kicker and getting it out of the way here. This is right about ADP for him, and we get the free look, and it's one of the best offenses in the league that we get access to.
So you're talking, do you want to skip 2 and go for 6?
I sort of like that because tiebreaker is the free look where we can cut our round 20 guy and get a different guy at the position if we don't get the scoring we want on Thursday night.
Let's take the kicker whose politics we agree with the most.
Listen, this is not because we like him as a player. This is because Coop sends me a message and
it's
Harrison Butker. No matter what, this is my guy. He's simpatico in life with Butker on everything, especially for the women in the chat. Coop is on board with every single thing he said.
Everything he said.
Yeah.
To forget it, you don't need a degree. Anyway, but this isn't a politics show. So we're going to take Harrison Butker because we care about fantasy points. We'll take Deshaun Watson. We'll take Tyreek Hill.
And the free look. So round
I want $1 million. I don't care who's kicking the field goals as long as they're kicking a lot.
Round 20 is now, round 20, I'm sorry, you might get cut. If Butker gives us like a 5-point week 1, we cut our 20th round guy and we pick up a kicker off waivers and just play the percentages there and get those extra points.
Yep.
So right now, Coop, we have 2 tight ends. Running back, I don't feel like a lot of pressure. We have 6. I put 1 in the queue I really like, though, that I like getting around this range. A guy who I think is very, very high upside contingent play, number 5 in our queue. Number 1 in our queue is really, really enticing. And then number 4 has kind of grown on me a little bit just because you have those weeks in that offense where they'll go to the mismatch, and it feels like that's their guy this year.
I like 3 over 4. I do.
So if you like 3, then he could be a 20th round guy because
We
he
can take him
he
last
doesn't.
round.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. I'm also going to add another name here.
19th round. For 4 and 3 are not the worst bets, and I'll say So number 6 makes a ton of sense.
That I just
Also,
added. The one I just
yeah,
added.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who you
I
just
think
added?
I actually like that as the next pick if you want to go there. Or do we got to take a defense, dude?
We have to take a defense. Again, I like just taking my streaming defense because they're always there, and their week 1 schedule is so easy.
Well, we got to take them. We don't have to take them next round. You don't think?
Yeah, I mean, you can if you want. It doesn't really matter.
No, I'm saying I don't think we do have to.
No, I don't think you have to. I think if you want, like, there's also an argument with taking number 2 I just put in there. We could talk about it when we're OTC.
Yeah. This
And
is compelling. This is compelling.
Will
Everyone,
Shipley
hang out and
was
wait to
taken.
see what guys we're talking about. But it is again. We have people in the chat hanging out with us. I know the Evil Ricks, great name. He took Dylan Laube, who's a player we like. He's hanging in the chat. Also, Wanda Robinson with 2 picks for us, and I think that was the player I was talking about. That could Malik Neighbor is going to be an every down player on the outside. They have to decide if the every down wide receivers, because there's only going to be 2, are going to be Malik Neighbors and an outside guy like a Jalen Hyatt or a Darius Slayton, or if Wanda Robinson is going to play slot and stay on the field for 2 wide receiver sets. If that's the case, Wanda Robinson could be awesome. So, I mean, but if he is just a part-time player, then now he's just Tyler Boyd or Cole Beasley. But, I mean, what's the difference between the role for Jaden Reed and the role that Wanda Robinson could have? That's it. That's all I had to say about Wanda Robinson.
So, Coop, I'll say if we want to utilize the free look with the defense, number 2 is the pick. Even though they have a quote-unquote tough matchup, there's still going to be opportunities for turnovers, sacks.
Damn, someone took Justice Hill?
Someone took him.
Damn it.
We'll be okay with that one. I think if you want to go defense, if you want to wait, we can get number 3 later. But again, our queue is all guys. The only guy that we might miss out on is number 4, positionally. So if you want to take him and see where preseason ends, now's the time to take Javon Baker.
So I checked the I checked the player
Mojo.
guide. It's actually Javon Baker. We're gonna take him.
Take him.
It's actually Javon Baker.
Javon. I think Javon sounds better.
It does sound better.
It's kind of like
told his mom.
Like Devon A-Chain should have never become that. He should have stayed A-Chain. A-Chain is about the coolest last name I've ever heard. And there was about a 3-month period where he was Devon A-Chain. Like
A-Chain, dude.
Yeah, it should have stayed with A-Chain. So at the end of the day,
the A-Train is coming through. The A-Train, baby.
I've had people pronounce my last name Gremminger or Gremminger over the years. So like, it's however you feel it.
I've never had any trouble with that. People call me. Cooper. I call people on the phone, and I'm like, "My name is Andrew Cooper," and they're like, "How do you spell that?" And I'm like, "Exactly how you think."
Yeah,
dude.
Exactly.
The only person that's ever thrown a curveball into that formula is Andrew Jones, spelling his name with UW at the end. I don't know what you're doing, but literally, I will go to people. It's spelled the way you think, and they'll be, or people will say to me, "They're like, how do you spell that?" And then they'll be like, "Never mind." So I don't have too much trouble with that one.
No,
chat loves the pick. Let's go. Let's get fired up, dude.
So I think this is defense in round 19 and then speculative tight end. The only guy I'll throw out to you just because of the free look, number 5, just because of the free look.
I don't mind it at all.
That could be like a touchdown.
But he's going to go. If we want him, we have to take him right now.
So I'm fine with that. If you want to take him right here in round 19, take him. It's kind of a superfluous pick. My preferred defense has been taken. I think people are scared a little bit about Philly because of the difficult matchup in week 1. But at the end
we had to take Cincy there if we wanted him, huh?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
People are starting to do that because it's just such a layup matchup week 1. And they actually had a bunch of usable weeks last year.
I'm starting to wonder why the defense I just added, why that defense wouldn't be good.
Let me see.
They're free.
They're fine. I think they're fine, and I think that the offensive quality will put pressure on people. I think it's one though, Coop. One,
We're on
we
the
get the
clock.
free look.
Did
So
Bateman? Oh, Bateman's there. Do you want to take him?
no, I think we take. I think we roll the dice and we take this defense.
Eagles.
Yeah, let's take Eagles.
Yeah.
Um,
Smart.
and if they force a couple turnovers and get some sacks, week one, the game is in Brazil, so like I think the game's gonna be a over environment. I think it's gonna be an exciting game. I actually worry a little bit like that opening Thursday game sometimes can go our way as fantasy managers. Sometimes it can be boring. I'm worried about this year, Kansas City and Baltimore, like being a little tight, that game ending up like a 21-20, 23-21 type game. But I actually think that the Green Bay Philly game, that game is going to be like the loose one where guys like FFPC, if you draft on Saturday after the Friday game, you get like the 2 free looks. I could
Right.
see multiple Packers and Eagles going a little bit higher than ADP because of the game flow.
Now, for people that aren't super familiar with FFPC, can you just quickly explain what you mean with the free
So
looks?
so basically you used to always have the Thursday free look where there's drafts going on Thursday right up until the game, and then immediately following the game and all day Friday, all day Saturday, you have drafts
Yeah,
where the Thursday players they're scoring.
you can pick them.
So ADP changes. Like when you had
Remember that year? Remember that
line
year Peyton Manning? I was just on the show on Tuesday with Turp, and we were talking about
yeah.
1 year Peyton Manning scored like 50 points on Thursday to start the season.
Well, I'll tell you the biggest one was in the FFPC competitor who also you draft out in Vegas and also in FFPC drafts. It was that Dallas Tampa Bay game that popped off where it was Tom Brady and against Dak and the game went insane and Amari Cooper went absolutely en fuego. Amari Cooper's ADP steamed into the top 6 overall and he was like going behind CeeDee Lamb and then all of a sudden he had this monster game and people were banking the points. So he was getting drafted as like going from like getting drafted as wide receiver 13 on Thursday to being drafted as like wide receiver 4 the next day. So he steamed up incredibly. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire game where he had that monster rookie, he had the debut game where he was incredible. He steamed up really big in this. Or actually, no, excuse me. It was the Kareem Hunt game, which was Kareem Hunt went absolutely bonkers in the opener. So you see it happen.
Yes.
Most of the time, you don't want to like overreact to the opening game, but banking like a 25, 30 point game when you're OTC is it's hard to walk away from that. So
Right, exactly. It's like I mean, if you can lock in, especially when it's players you already liked, and then now you confirm that they already put up big points for week one and that they have the role you thought, like it's huge.
Coop, I think
I like how grapefruit in the chat points out that Saints D versus Panthers. Of all the 270 games on the slate, the 2 with the lowest over under are Saints at Panthers and Panthers at Saints.
just disgusting.
Disgusting.
Well,
And the
you could
Patriots play the Chargers in December and in New England, and that game has a higher over under than
okay.
Saints.
I'll throw out one really gross way to play week one. You could take the Green Bay defense and bank one of the two having a 10 plus point week. You could also take number 1 here.
Taking Hayden Hurst.
Do you want to
Come
take
on.
him or do you want to go with number 1 here? And
Bateman?
have the free look on Rashaad Bateman.
We were very thin at tight end.
Okay, so let's take
We only have 2.
let's take boring Hayden Hurst.
Let's take your guy. Let's do Bateman.
Well,
Let's do the free look. We can add Hurst.
You can add Hurst at the waiver wire run.
I like the
after.
free look. We just talked about the
take
free look for 10 minutes. Let's take advantage of it. Right?
Okay, so this is our free look play. So anybody's like, why is Coop and Theo taking Rashaad Bateman when you just have all those wide receivers? It's because if Rashaad Bateman has, there's a lot of pressure on Rashaad Bateman. If you want to be a member of this squad, you've got to show up on opening night against Kansas City with Coop. I guess we're going to put he's got to give us a 15-pointer to get into our lineup. So I think so by Sunday morning, if Bateman gives us 14, 15 points, we'll probably throw him in there. If not, 9 points, you're gone. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, unless he looks good, and then we're like tilting, and we're like, we do have to keep him. So I love this team. This team is nice. Running back 2 is
for our team here. Yeah, let's zoom in.
Running back 2 is going to be a weekly battle, but it's the one position that we have to hit on the waiver wire is tight end 3. and we have to hit running back 2. We have to keep trying to improve on those 2 positions, but the tight ends present themselves every single year off the waiver wire in FFPC leagues, where the first couple weeks of the season, those guys are going to be available. And then running back 2s, those guys, I mean, the running back churn on the waiver wire is continual in this format. So I like the team. It's got a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
I think wide receiver, we're looking good.
We're
What's your
gonna
favorite
need
pick, Coop?
we're gonna need. I think my favorite pick was Breece Hall at
Yeah,
5.
layup.
But my favorite
Absolute
pick that
layup.
we could actually got that we actually had to go for is I really do believe that Christian Watson has big upside if he can stay healthy. I think the guys like Watson, Shahed, Coleman, when you're playing for $1 million, who cares about the floor, right? Ricky Pearsall, what if Brandon Ayuk gets traded? Now he's now he's in that highly consolidated position. It's like, this is what we're doing here. And when you have Sam LaPorta, all we care about is upside. So you go for Greg Dulcich. What if he can be the Jimmy Graham role, big slot tight end in this offense, right? We're going to need to grab another quarterback at some point. You know, Russell Wilson's floating out there. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I would, if he looks all right, wouldn't mind adding him. But just real quick for everybody, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And if you like hanging out with Theo and I, guess what? If you missed the announcement earlier, we got our own show. We're doing our own weekly show. We're staying with Fantasy Alarm. We're staying with Fantasy Pros, but
Player profiler.
Player profiler, sorry. The Fantasy Pros Championship is what we're doing here. The Dynasty Trades in 5 folks were like, we want a redraft show, and we need some people to handle that. And they came to me and Theo and said, well, do you guys want to run redraft in 5? And we said, of course we do. Theo and I, how many hours of podcast have we done with each other?
Too many, Coop.
Days,
Too many.
weeks, months. You know, so like we got our own show now. It's going to be Theo and I talking about our process, hitting you with the waivers, hitting you with some quick shorts, everything you want. So go over and subscribe to. Obviously, you're already subscribed to this channel, so do that first. But subscribe to Redraft in 5. There is a link in the description to that. That's going to be our show all year. Me and Theo chopping it up, arguing back and forth, getting to the bottom of waivers and ads and trades and whatever you guys want. So get set up with that. We're going to be hanging out, chatting like we did on this show. And also Theo and I are going to be super rich this time next year because we just drafted the championship winning team.
Yeah, so this is might as well not even enter after this one because
enter some different ones. There's a ton of contests at FFPC. If you want to get in those, then use promo code Coop and they'll give you $25 off when you deposit $35 or more. You can get in on all this stuff. So I already dropped Redraft in 5. People know where my stuff is. People know how to get it set up with FFPC. Theo, let everybody else know what else you got going on, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, so you can find Redraft in 5 with Coop and I every single week over on the Redraft in 5 YouTube channel, and that'll also be dropping as a podcast. You can find all of my other work over at Player Profiler. I'm dropping multiple shows every single week, multiple articles. I do the waiver wire column over there. And this year I have a weekly column in The Athletic that should be dropping on Fridays as well. So, we're busy. Coop and I are out here grinding, but it's a lot of fun, and we're really stoked for the season.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. I cannot wait, dude. Less than 3 weeks, Theo.
I know.
Less than 3 weeks until that first Thursday. Football is back, baby. And we are out of here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for subscribing to this channel and Redraft in 5. Everything you do to support us, it means the world to us. It really does, because we just love football. And we love talking about football, and you guys do too. And, you're the people that give us an opportunity to do this. Every like, every subscription, it's like, I can't describe to you how much that means to me. Every time Scampers and Toronto Dave and Jose and Gogo and everybody that pops in here, like, that means the world to us. So thank you guys. I hope you have a wonderful